saw, this black thing, that was in front of it. And at first I thought it was a bear. When my headlights hit it, it stood up and it turned and looked at us. The look on his face was, just total shock, surprise.
This is the Cryptic Creatures Podcast. I am Brian, and with me as always is my co-host Todd. What's going on, buddy?
What up, man? What's going on? Another episode. Kicking it out.
Right on. Hell yeah.
One
love
after
it.
the other. Love doing this stuff.
Yeah, I love talking to these people. It's amazing.
Yeah. Just like to hear the encounters, and
Yep.
As we've kind of developed to this, we used to kind of pre-interview these people and talk to them a little bit to get an idea, but I don't like doing that so much anymore because I want it to be just as much a surprise to me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's more fun like that.
As it is to the guests. So
Yep.
Today we're going to bring Bob on. Bob is from Virginia.
Yep.
And he had an encounter a few years back. I'm not sure exactly what he saw, but we'll bring him on and talk to him. And hey,
yeah, I'm excited.
Shout out to the listeners. Thanks for listening as always, guys. We appreciate it.
Yep.
So much.
Yep. We appreciate all of you.
Yep. So let's not waste any more time. Let's bring Bob on.
Yeah, let's get him.
Bob, thanks for coming on and talking to us.
Thanks for having me this morning.
Yeah, it's good having you.
Bob, you had an encounter back in 2009 in Virginia. What was going on that day, and what happened? What did you see? Can you walk us into this and tell us what was going on?
Sure. We were on the way home. It's about 11:30 at night, and there's a little, I'll call it a cattle pond. It's just a little pond there to water, to water livestock, and I saw, this black thing, that was in front of it. And at first I thought it was a bear, but, which is really strange in this area. I grew up here, I've lived here all my life, and I've never even heard of anybody really seeing a bear, that's a little farther west of here. But anyway, when my headlights hit it, it stood up and it turned and looked at us. And, it was on, the pond was on the other side of it, so it had nowhere to go, and, my wife and I, we rode by, and I asked my wife, I said, did you just see something, and she's like, yeah, and she saw this thing, saw the same thing. And, it was just really strange because, this totally caught us off guard. I got the impression that it was kind of a young, like adolescent, because it was really buff, didn't have any, bulge around the midsection. And I think the look on his face was, just total shock, surprise. And it was a very human looking, face. It wasn't like an ape face at all.
How far away from you do you think this thing was when you hit it with your headlights?
Probably 30 yards, maybe.
Okay. So you were close enough to get some detail on this thing.
Not far enough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like I said, I could see, the body, the muscles, in the body, and the surprised look on his face. That was what really, and it moved so quick. That was what kind of blew me away, is how quick it stood up and looked, It was really bizarre. I've never seen anything move that quick. I don't know if you've heard of Bill Draganis, but he came down and, and we went to the site and, looked things over and everything. We came to the conclusion that maybe it was trying to find, like maybe some frogs or something in the mud, something to eat or just drinking water. Also, their power transmission lines right next to the pond, which he thought was significant.
Yeah, I've heard they like to travel those routes because they're kind of clear cut and they can get from A to B quicker.
And it's a straight shot too, But yeah, I've heard that too. I've heard stories of you know, people working on power lines and stuff having sightings and that type of thing.
Did you say you thought this thing was a little bit younger?
Yeah. You know, like I said, it didn't. It just gave me that impression. And it didn't really have any. You know, it had a really tapered waist. You know, not like I guess the typical videos you see that's got really big midriff. That midsection bulge. I guess like us older guys get. But this one didn't have that at all. It was really buff. And I'm guessing that's not being young and inexperienced. That's how it managed to get itself caught out in the open like that.
Mm-hmm. How tall do you think this thing was?
Taller than me. That's probably 7.5 feet, something like that.
The gentleman that came out and talked to you, was he from the BFRO?
No. Bill actually he kind of did his own thing. He actually he had his own unit set up. He actually passed away a couple years ago, but he had his own sighting up in I believe it was Culpeper County, metal detecting with some friends, and after his sighting he was hooked. So he did computer work for the federal government. Okay. A lot of it was he couldn't talk about, but he invented a camera too that didn't make any ultrasound noise or anything. So that because there was a lot of discussion about that they can hear trail cameras and stuff, and he tried to work around those issues. And he's a pretty smart guy. I was sorry to hear that he had passed.
So when this thing stood up and it had that shocked look on his face, could you see the details of the face? You said it looked kind of human-like. Could you describe what you saw?
Yeah, I did. Just the surprise look on his face. It was a totally human reaction. I mean, it wasn't. When you look at apes, they really don't have the muscles in their face like humans do, so they don't have that expression. The range of expressions. I don't think. But this, it was totally human. The face was dark though. It was, it wasn't light colored or white. The face was very dark.
Was it like a black color? Was it brown?
I would say it's kind of a black color almost. The color of their hair color it looked black, but it looked like it had like some brown tinges to it.
And how far away from your home was this, Bob?
About 15 miles.
You guys went down there when the gentleman came. Did you guys go down there and walk around the pond to look for prints or anything like that?
Yeah, it was raining when we went back down there, so everything was, there wasn't anything left. Mm-hmm. But it's really creepy to stand there where it was, and then because that made me appreciate just how big it was. Made me feel really small.
Were you scared at all, you and your family?
No, I was, because you're just kind of in shock, and I wanted to turn around and go back, and wife's like, no way you're going back, so she was afraid. It took her a long time to even talk about it. It just kind of freaked her out.
Yeah.
But it's just really strange when you see something like that, because you know what you saw, but it's still like, you're still trying to get your head around it,
Mm-hmm.
And I'd never imagined that I would ever see something like that. Right. And the area that I grew up in the area where the sighting was. So, I mean, I grew up within 5 miles of there. So, and I roamed the woods and everything. I lived on a farm. I mean, we never had anything like that. I think maybe now they're just, with habitat loss, they're just moving more into areas that are where people are,
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you'd ever seen anything before or anything in that area where you lived, if this was the first time, just kind of out of the blue, you guys are driving along and, it's nighttime, it's late, you're kind of tired probably, and then all of a sudden, boom, you see something, you think it's a bear, and it's not, and you're like, whoa.
Right.
The shock factor just for the fact that you saw it is one thing, but the fact that you never had any other relative experience of that around there all your life that you grew up is crazy too.
Well, and I even looked to see if there had been any other sites, and there are very few in this area. But
you said that was north of Richmond, Virginia, basically?
yes, yes.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of King's Dominion, the
King's Dominion?
amusement park.
No, we'll have to
It's
look
not
that up on a map and see where that's at.
Yeah.
Is that along the Appalachian Trail, by chance?
No, farther east. We're on the I-95 border.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with Interstate 95, but that's the main interstate that runs, along the East Coast,
Gotcha.
and all the way from Maine to Florida. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a couple miles off of that.
So what did the gentleman that came to see you, I forget what you said his name was?
Bill Draganis.
Bill Luganis. What did he tell you? What did he say?
Well, he was convinced that the sighting was legitimate because just with the power lines and just the area, and with my description and stuff, it's just I think he just basically wanted to come down and talk to me and see, just hear my story,
Right.
and look at the area.
Do you ever go back to that spot?
No, not really. It's kind of out of the way. I don't really have any. My friends that lived up that way moved, so I don't really go up there anymore. So, but I think about it. I think about it all the time. It's it's not something that you forget.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think I would. I think I'd go back there and just sit and watch. Because at that pond, they were probably coming to that pond before or going again. Maybe not after you scared him, but it's interesting that that's probably a water hole for those guys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But and there's it's actually it's right next to Ashland Berry Farm, which they grow all kinds of produce and stuff.
Okay.
So I'm thinking like that might be part of the attraction also.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got food and water, so why not, right? And an
Right.
easy access to it.
Well, and you got that power line that runs pretty much straight north-south,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that they use that a lot on different shows and whatnot. I've heard that they use power line trails or whatnot because they're just clear cut and they can get from A to B pretty quick. And people really don't see that. You don't see too much of those trails on the highway or road too much. So they're kind of secluded, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it just blows me away that because most of the sightings that happen in Virginia are in the western part of the state. There's very few in the eastern part, but it just I guess they're just getting pushed out. And
yeah, they're growing and migrating. Growing as a species.
I wonder too. That it seems like I know a lot of it has to do with just people having phones, but there's so many more sightings these days. I'm wondering, is the population expanding?
Yeah, I think it is. I definitely think it is.
Oh yeah.
If people aren't out hunting these things and killing these things off, absolutely, they definitely have to be growing, and that's why I think we're seeing more and more sightings. Occurring more and more. It's going to get to a point where they're going to be abundant. I think if it keeps.
Yeah, eventually we're not going to be able to deny it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're rapidly approaching that point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people talk about mountain lions and stuff like that, and how rare it is to see a mountain lion. But you do see them, and and I don't know if there's more mountain lions being seen than Bigfoot. It sounds like maybe not these days, but as a species like Bigfoot, they're going to expand, they're going to grow like humans, and they're going to populate more. So eventually, it's going to get to a point where there's going to be too much interaction for it to be denied.
Yeah.
Bob, before you had this incident, did you believe in Bigfoot?
Yes. I just always struck by the consistency of the reports. You have people all over the U.S. describing the exact same thing. So obviously, it's not like other phenomena where people are seeing different things. This with this thing, people always they see the same thing. There's very little variation in just what they see. So to me, they're not all liars.
People are talking about these things and they're describing the same thing. It's not like people are making it up and going, well, I'm just going to say it was 8 foot tall. It was hairy. It kind of looked like a human in the face, but it didn't have the skin tone as humans. How long do you think this incident lasted? Like, how many seconds were you looking at this thing?
Um, that's something I tried to figure out. I'm thinking somewhere between 5 and 10 seconds. I mean, I got long enough because when my lights hit it, I actually slowed down because I'm like, oh, I see a bear. I never, I've seen them up in the western part of the state a couple times, but like I said, I've never seen one down in this part of the state. So it's kind of immediately taking my foot off the gas, slowing down. So I'd say not quite 10 seconds. I mean, I had a good long look at it. I mean, long enough for it, to see it sit there, bent over, and then for it to stand up and turn and look at us. I mean, so.
Did it take off running, you said, or you guys had just
No,
passed it?
there was nowhere for it to go. That's, that was this weird part is that it didn't give itself anywhere because the only place to go was through the pond to get away from us. You either had to run toward us or through the pond.
Okay. It was on that side of the pond. Okay.
Yeah, it was on my side of the pond.
And you said you're about 30 yards away from it or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sure your wife was pretty freaked out for a while as well.
Yeah, she was. But it was just so bizarre though, because you never imagined seeing something like that.
Mm-hmm. And do you still live in that area, Bob?
Oh yeah. I still live in the area. I've lived here all my life. Here in this, I guess in about a 30-mile radius. And so that's the thing. Is that kind of bugs me too. Is I've spent lots of time in the woods. And it's not the same going to the woods anymore.
Yeah, you're always looking for one, I'm sure.
Well, I don't even want. If I go, I usually carry a gun with me now. I don't go. Not that it does me a lot of good, I don't think, but it makes me feel a little better.
Right.
I don't blame
we hear that a lot.
Yeah, Brian and I were talking, and I don't think that these things are seen. I think if you're going to see one, it's because you caught it off guard, or it wants you to see it. You've probably been in the woods a lot, and you may have been around those things, but you never knew they were there.
Oh yeah, you never will.
They're so stealthy. Right. They can remain quiet, hidden. But when people do have these encounters, a lot of times it's because we've caught them off guard. They weren't expecting. He had probably went to that pond several times at the same time every night, getting a drink, whatever. Never had a car come through that area. Didn't think about it. And all of a sudden, you come around the curve and boom, you're on him. You definitely startled him. I'm sure.
Right. Yeah, we didn't see any other vehicles that night on the road. We were the only. We drove about 10 miles down the road total, and I mean, we didn't see another vehicle at all. So I mean, it's pretty deserted. Yeah. It's out of the country. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'd definitely like to drive around that area and check it out. If I was you, I would probably make a trip out of my way just to go by to see if there's anything around. If
I would.
Maybe you don't want to. Maybe would you want to see another one, Bob?
That's a good question. I don't know. I've seen it. I'm kind of like, I'm good.
Yeah, we've had that response from a couple people there say no, I wouldn't want to see another one. But then a lot of people say yes. They would definitely want to see one again.
Yeah, and a lot of them say that I'd love to see one, but in my car, 100 yards away,
or a good distance away.
Yeah, I love these people that say that they wouldn't be afraid of it or anything. It's like, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, I don't think that's true.
Yeah, as much as Brian and I talk about it and we say, God, we just want to have an encounter, and I think that if we did, we'd probably be like, okay, cool, let's just stay here and stare at this thing. But we'd probably be so scared, I don't know what would happen. It'd be a shock factor.
We wouldn't. We would just stand there because we'd be frozen with fear, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's bizarre because I could never imagine seeing such a thing.
Yeah. My wife and I went to Virginia earlier this year. We were out on the coast, but I was looking up some spots to what I call go squatching, and there really wasn't a lot of areas toward the eastern side of the state where sightings have been recorded, I guess. Not to say that people aren't seeing them there, but definitely more toward the border there of West Virginia, I believe, is where people are seeing those things more.
Out that area.
Without looking at a map, I'm not sure how far away you are from West Virginia, but my job.
It's about 4 hours.
Is it that far? Okay.
Yeah, I'm a good ways from Virginia.
My mental geography isn't quite working well this morning. I haven't had enough coffee, but
I am in the dead center of the state,
okay.
right in the center. But there are a lot of swamps, in the eastern part of the state, which I think that really don't allow people much access, and so I think there may be some activity on in those areas, but it's just that it's just so difficult for people to get into those areas that they're pretty well hidden.
Hmm. I kind of wonder if they don't kind of lay low in those areas and then venture out to like spots where you saw one, trying to survey their land, so to speak, and see what they can get away with and what they can't. And maybe if they run into too many people or see too many people, because they're going to see people before they see them most of the time.
Right.
They might just retreat back to those areas and stay hidden because people don't go. We've said this a lot of times on the show. There's so much unexplored land out there in every state. Where people just don't go and don't know what's there,
Yeah, another area that I've heard some things about is the northern neck area of Virginia, which is actually the area that's up on the Potomac River across from Maryland. That area is sparsely inhabited. It's got a lot of, tributaries, stuff that runs into the Potomac River. And actually, we went up to Westmoreland State Park, which I don't know exactly when this was, but it's been since we had the sighting back in 2009. We went fossil hunting at the park at night, because it was low tide, and we heard a scream, and it kind of freaked my wife out. So, she insisted that we leave, so we left. But it was a very loud yell, and we have no idea what it was. But
was it a deep sounding howl, or was it like a high pierced kind of scream?
It was. I tried to find something it kind of sounded like the Ohio Grassman. I don't know if you're familiar with that call.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very similar to that big whoop or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So your wife said, "Let's get out of here, huh?" Party pooper.
Yeah. Well, it was at night. It was late at night.
I probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
So after seeing this thing, looking at its face, you said it was kind of human-like. Could you describe any details, like the nose, the eyes, the mouth? Were you close enough to see that, or?
No, just just the expression on his face. Just that wide-eyed, shocked look.
Like, oh shit, I've been caught, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's it's nowhere to go. That was the thing too.
What do you think? What do you think Bigfoot is? Do you think he's just what we say is a flesh and blood creature roaming around in the woods that just hasn't been discovered? Do you think there's any kind of supernatural?
No. I think it's just a creature in the woods. It's humanoid. It's not. I wouldn't call it an ape, an unknown primate. And that's, to me, that sounds like a pretty good description.
Do you think they've been around for a long time? Maybe before humans?
Oh yeah. Native American stories. They all have stories about it.
Yeah. Why do you think they haven't been discovered yet? We were talking about that. We were talking about population. More and more people are seeing them. But, you would think if the natives were talking about it back in the day, why do you think that, science says, hey, these things are real. They're out there. Be careful. Do you think there's a cover-up going on? Do you think government's involved?
Actually, yeah. Think what would happen though if we said, okay, there's an animal out there, and this is where it lives. Are they going to protect its habitat? Because it basically lives everywhere. You know what I mean? That's going to be a nightmare.
Right.
They say, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's just a huge can of worms you open.
Yeah.
When you admit that it's real. And I think admitting that it's not real, kind of protects it. Government knows.
Yeah, we think so too.
Yeah, I'm convinced the government knows, and they it's just that, it would just be a nightmare. They admit that it's legit.
Right.
Do you think these things are dangerous, Bob?
I think they can be. I think basically they just want to be left alone. But yeah, I think they can be territorial, and yeah, I think they can be dangerous. I wouldn't want to find out.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah, I was watching some stuff about the Alaskan Triangle. I'm not sure if you guys have heard about that, but
Oh yeah.
they're talking about like 16,000 people have come up missing in the past so many years up there, and just based on the population and that amount of people, it's just crazy. And people are just wondering, they're not finding bodies, they're not finding the backpacks, they're not finding anything. These people are just gone.
Yeah, right.
So it makes you wonder, are they treading on these things turf? And are these things stepping up saying, hey, the more abundant they are, maybe they're more protective of their area, so to speak. But I don't know. It's hard to say.
Well, they may, different areas may be more aggressive than others, too. You don't know. And you don't know if there's some difference in genetics, too,
Well, I just wonder sometime if maybe there's going to be a hunter out there that's just going to end up shooting one, accidentally, purposely, whatever, and brings a body forward if it's going to happen, if they're going to, reveal these things, or if the government's going to still try to cover it up. I've heard a lot of stories where things similar to that have happened, and
government swoops in. And
was South St. Helens when they found supposedly burned or something, the government did, or Forestry Service found?
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to a lot of Forest Service people that have been around for a while that may have or may have not seen these things.
I tell you what's I do too is like I don't hunt, but I have a lot of friends that do. And we're talking. I'll say, well, did you have anything strange happen when you're hunting? And they'll be like, yeah, there was this one. You know what I mean? I've had a couple people tell me stories that strange things they've had. Hunting, which they kind of blew off, but they may have been more to it. My brother-in-law was telling me he was in a deer stand. There was something in the tree, and it was moving around through the trees, shaking the trees, which was just kind of weird, But he said he never saw anything. I heard another story. We have a military base, AP Hill, and it's I think in land area it's like about the third largest in the U.S. It's a huge military base, but it's used mostly for National Guard training. But I read a story about a Marine unit from Quantico was doing some training there, and they post sentries around camp at night. And he said something was an animal in the tree, and it moved all the way around their camp through the trees. And he said, that the next day he was talking to one of the others because it was three of them on sentry, 3 points sentry, and he said that one of the other guys saw it too. So there haven't been other sightings in the area. That's such a huge area. There's just nothing there. The forest.
Sounds like you got some activity going on down there, Bob.
Well, like I said, I think it's moving, that they're moving out into new areas, new habitat.
Yeah. Well, if you're out there and you see something going on, or you happen to catch another one, you got to get a hold of us and let us know.
Okay. If I hear anything, or even if I hear about anything, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Any kind of stories. We appreciate you coming on and talking to us and telling us your encounter.
Yeah,
sure.
That was cool.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
All right, Bob. Well, you take care. If you see something,
all right.
Let us know,
Have a good New Year.
You too.
Thanks, you too.
Well, Bob definitely saw something, Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Sure.
That was pretty cool.
Caught him off guard. Got him in his headlights.
Yeah, he was just minding his business, getting a drink of water.
Yeah, he's just thirsty. It makes you wonder how often he or others have been coming down to that pond that time of night, with the traffic being like it was. I tell you what, I keep saying this, it's like, man, if that was me, I'd keep going back there and sitting there with a camera, with a video. But, Bob didn't want to have much to do with it, I don't think, and neither did his wife, it sounded like.
But his wife definitely didn't, it sounded like.
Yeah, like we keep saying, oh, we'd love to have an encounter, and maybe someday we will, but maybe it would freak us out a lot more than we think it would,
You never know until it happens, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, guys, we just kind of want to say, hey, the phone quality there on that one isn't the greatest. Sorry about that. Sometimes we can't get
Yeah,
guys
so
to.
please don't complain in the comments. We know.
Yeah, we've had that happen.
Yeah.
We can't always get these guys on our program that we use, but we're not going to pass up an interview or that. So we'll try to work on that a little bit and make it sound as good as possible for you. But
Right.
yeah, sometimes you just got to talk to these guys as best as you can, and you get them on a phone call. That's the best you can do. Some guys aren't tech savvy or even have a computer to do this stuff on. So
Right.
we
So
apologize for the sound
we
quality,
work
but
with
we'll
what we
work on
have.
it. Yep. We definitely want to let those go. I'm not going to let those go to the wayside. So
Oh, heck no.
as we
How,
produce,
yeah, a sighting's a sighting. So
yeah, definitely. But yeah, so that was good stuff. Hopefully Bob can see some more stuff and get a hold of us down the road, or anybody for that matter. One thing I was
yeah,
going to say, I wanted to bring up, we've had a lot of people ask about what happened to Herman.
I know. We need to get him back on the show so we can figure out what happened to Herman.
Yeah, if you guys remember, Roy came on, talked about his dog man werewolf encounter and talked about Herman.
Yeah.
So you guys know what I'm talking about. We will bring Roy back on. We've talked to him already. He's willing to come back on and talk about some more stuff that he's got and also tell us what happened to Herman. So it is coming down the road. So be patient with us. We will bring him back on and
Yeah,
find
we'll get
out.
him back. Yep. Because I'm curious too.
I
So
am. We haven't asked him on the side. We're waiting as well.
no.
So
Yep.
we'll find
Yep.
out what's going on with Herman and we'll let you guys know for sure. So.
Darn right.
All right. Until then, next time, Brian, have a good one. Thanks as always for
Yep.
hanging out with me, brother.
Always fun, man.
All right. We will talk to you later.
Yep. See ya.